You know?
So you love being the quote guy?
No. Learn that real fast.
So what I told you I'd say is like, look, I'm not the quote guy. If you want a quote, go to select the quote. I'm here to protect your family, and I got another appointment in 45 minutes. We can cut this super short if you want, but I'm definitely not the quote guy. And I told you that over the phone. So if you want to give me 15 minutes, we can run through this, see if I can help protect your family. And the directness works.
Yeah.
It really does. You're going to rub some people the wrong way, but you weren't going to get that sale anyway.
Yeah.
You're going to walk out, and that would cut it quick. I'm not going to try to convince somebody to do something they don't want to do. I'm just going to lay it out and be like, I'm not the quote guy.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I mean, I've definitely said that after I'm looking for quotes, but I'm here to protect your family, and I'm the medical field underwriter to put in a request to protect your family. Not here to just give you numbers for you to think about. You've already thought about this because I'm here.
Right. That's good.
And so it's one of those things where if you properly set it up the correct way with what's going to go on today, it's pretty straightforward. And I get people to, well, I don't know if I want to make a decision today. And it's like, well, you're not really making a decision on the coverage. You're making a decision if you want to protect your family.
Yeah.
Because we don't even know if you're qualified, so it's really weird for you to say you need to think about something you're not actually qualified for.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
That's good.
It's like...
I like that one.
That's like looking at the $500,000 house, but you can't get the loan for it.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get the loan first before
Great
you can
analogy.
get the house. And so you talk people through that. You got to have them paint the picture, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so now I pretty much, anyone that I actually set up the intro with, like we're writing an application. And what I've really done is really conveyed to them that I'm there for them. Yeah. This isn't about me. I'm here to help you. I don't work for any of these companies. I don't favor any of these companies. I'm here to find you the best rate at the lowest premium you can get qualified for. Mm-hmm. And then when I go to show them quotes, again, this is like if it's final expense, it's like, again, this is about you, not me. Like realistically, what do you think? Like you could set aside for something like this, $50. Cool. I'm gonna do my best to stay around that $50 range. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not there to like scare them away. And then they're gonna. And what happens at the same time, Willis is like, oh, I already talked to somebody. It's too expensive. Yeah. Because someone gave them a high ass quote, and then they just think everything in the world is going to be high.
Right.
So instead of like, I'm not here to force anything onto you. I'm here to show you what you're looking for.
Right.
And so that goes a long way when people feel that. But I think his directness at the same time is what people need. People need to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe the amount of times I've sat there with people and like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Because they don't know. They need to be told what to do.
Right.
And we're the professional, but we get so scared and cross our fingers and hope they pick an option.
Right.
Rather than telling them what they should do.
See, and that's where, like, I've always shied away from coming back with something else because, like, I show them that. And maybe it's because I had a bad experience once where I presented the options, whether it was 2 options or whether it was 3, and they're like, nah, it's out of the question. Unaffordable, not in the budget, blah, blah, blah. So then when I went to get something else out of my bag to present something different, a little bit less expensive, they're like, why didn't you just show me that in the first place? Like, and I was like, whoa,
So don't ever sell against what your backup might be. Does that make sense? So don't sell against whole life, or don't say don't present your first options like the end all be all, especially to old people. Because then they're going to be like, exactly what you experienced. Well, why didn't you just show me that? Or what about blah, 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 all the garbage that they say to you? Be like, we got other options. Here's the good news. This is what I think is the best for your situation and your budget, but we have other options if this one doesn't work. And then you open the door for yourself to have 3 or 4 different fallbacks, all the way from full coverage of term insurance to small whole life policies, all the way down to accidental. Mm-hmm. So you can always keep showing things to make it work. So make your job easier than it, just make your job easy for yourself. Mm-hmm. You can make it harder, you can make it easy. If you're selling against, like I've got from personal experience, I've gotten in trouble with this before, is I'll sell so hard against term insurance only to find out that that's what they want. We're like in a mortgage, like if they're 70 years old, I'm like, and you don't want term. It's going to cost more than your mortgage payment. What you want to do is, whatever, someone to cover 12, 18 months, 3.5 years, whatever it might be, depending on their mortgage payment. And then it'll come out at the end, yeah, that has no value. We wanted term. and we're willing to pay for it, but because you bashed it, we don't want to do business with you without saying that.
Right.
They say that without saying that a lot.
Yeah.
Anytime you don't get a sale, it's always on you. It's never on the client.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's always a you thing, a me thing. It's me. If you look in the mirror, it's always going to be me. I had a bad day. I was off my game. I had a great day. I was on point. It's the same people with a different face. It's always the same situation. So you got to get really good. You have a black belt in asking questions, and then use it and being a good listener. So don't just ask them for the sake of asking the questions, like actually listen to their responses, and then just you pepper all that stuff in like throughout the presentation. And it's hard for people to say no. You're going to close 85-90% of the people if you're just using their words. You know,
it's asking the right questions, and like you said, actually listening to them. And if it takes you writing it down on the sheet for you to remember, that's important as well.
And I feel like people know you care more than most. Mm-hmm. Even you started on your phone script, like Miss Jane.
Yep.
You know, your rapport building is on point from the first couple words you get out. So when you get there, they know you care, and you're more of a person than a salesperson. You're an ally versus an enemy. You sound really good on the phone too. I was listening to it, but it all starts there, and then you just continue whatever reputation you've already built for yourself when you get in the door.
And I think figuring out how knowledgeable they are in insurance, because some people are clueless and some people are very knowledgeable.
Oh yeah.
And someone who's knowledgeable, you don't want to try to prove them wrong. You know, you want to side with them. And so I think figuring out ways to ask them that question if they know the difference between term and whole life. Do you have a preference?
Like, doesn't Sean say something real cool that is something very, I don't know if cool is the right word, but he goes, you can be right or you can be rich. I'd rather be rich. You don't have to be right. The path of least resistance every time in a house.
Right.
You can be right or you can be rich. They can think they know. Give them whatever the heck they want, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're just there to, look, they ask for some coverage. Give them some freaking coverage, whatever they want.
I hate term.
Yeah.
I'm going to show them whole life.
Cool. Term sucks.
I hate whole life. Okay, cool.
Well,
hopefully you're medically qualified to get term. You know what I mean? But it's just someone has told them about insurance in the past, and so you got to figure out how they feel about it.
It was probably someone closer to them than you are, too.
Correct.
It was probably their brother or uncle or cousin or wife's friend.
Yeah.
You know, and they're obviously way better at this than you are.
And they know. They know. So yeah, they do know. They're 100% right, Willis.
Right. So when you get to the door, right, and people open it, they're like, I'm like, hey, right, Willis here for our appointment. They're like, well, I thought you were calling.
I'm here.
We went through, we went through the whole. They sent me, You know, I went through the whole thing with you on the phone. You know exactly that I'm coming.
So I don't battle with people.
Yeah.
So if you make people feel uncomfortable in just the right amount, like they can't say anything to you. Yeah, so I'm here.
And it's that awkward where they're like, come on in.
Yeah, you got to get good with being quiet and just letting that silence hang. It's like the most powerful thing you can say is not saying anything.
Not saying too much.
Yeah.
100%. How many, on average, appointments would you say that you run in a week?
Man, you know, I really do. So I've been kind of rotating out of some final expense and more into mortgage. Okay. But, you know, I was trying to set, you know, anywhere from 8 to 10 a day.
Okay.
You know, on average.
That's heavy.
Yep. Yeah, 8 to 10 a day. And so now I'm a more like, you know, I'd like to be 6 to 8.
6 to 8?
Yeah, 6 to 8. And I'm trying to figure out myself, like, I would love to run 7 a day, like, only mortgage protection.
You could never fail if you have 7 a day.
I would love to run it, but like my problem is I kind of get hung up on the like I'll be there at like 8. What works best for you, 8 or 8:30 a.m. You know, because everybody's like, dude, let's do a 9 or a 10. I'm like, man, how do you get the early set and the late set? I can set everything in between, but that one just seems to be.
I got a good answer for you. That's Sunday morning. You see them on Sundays. Adding that extra day in there opens up all those people. Where you can't, and being busy is a good thing. So that's a good thing. The busier you are and the less available you are when you're communicating it to them, the more important your perceived value pumps up.
So how do you know, like when you're talking to them on the phone, you find out they're retired, right? Mm-hmm. You do the whole, you know, you getting up with the roosters, you're sleeping in a little bit, and when they say they get up early, is that the one you're going for? Like, okay,
correct.
I've got an 8 or an 8:30.
Well, you can even go earlier to those people. Like, you could hit a 7 o'clock if you really wanted to.
How would you say that to me? Like, you know, how do you?
So look, I actually usually start my appointments around 7:30, 8 o'clock, but it sounds like you're an early morning riser, so I can put you down for my first one in the morning. Is there any reason you want to be available around 7:30 or around 8 a.m.? And it's those people are the ones that you set first. Because, I wake up at 5, got my cup of coffee. Cool, have a cup of coffee ready for me.
Is that how you say it, too? Like, you getting up early these days, or you sleeping in?
Yeah, no, I asked them. I said, are you waking up with the roosters, or you like to sleep in nowadays? And then they're like, oh, I'm still waking up bright and early. I'm like, okay, perfect. So, look, I usually start my appointments around 8 a.m. I don't have an 8 a.m. right now, so I can put you down for the first one of the day. Is there any reason you want to be available at 8 a.m. or 7:30?
Okay. So I was always like scared of setting those super early ones, Mike. You know what I'm saying? Because like when I would try to set, they're like, "Nope, don't come at that time."
Well,
but 9:30. Here we go.
I also think too at the same time, Willis, that you're allowing one or two experiences to dictate the rest of that. And so just because one or two people say that doesn't mean every single person is going to say that. Right. You know what I mean? But it's hard because our mind is like, I've done this before. I failed at this before. I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you don't keep trying, then you'll never get that time down. And so it's just going against your grain or the way that your mind is telling you and trying it. You know what I mean? Just like you've done everything in this business.
I say things like, when I was engaged, when I was just dating Rena, it was like, my girlfriend's going to kill me, but I'll do it. Or now my wife will kill me, but I'll do it for you. Like, the more human and vulnerable you can make yourself, the higher your show ratio is going to be. The way that I talk to people on the phone is like I'm trying to convince my stubborn friend to do something that I know they'll want to do, but it's going to take some nudging. Mm-hmm. And that's the tone that I take with them. So you can probably think of the guy in your group that exactly who that is. And that's the tone I would take with the people when you're trying to get them to meet you at a non-ideal time, whether that's your 7:30 in the morning or your 8 o'clock at night. There's a little more coaxing, a little more nudging, but still in that friendly but direct tone with the understanding you're going to have to push a little bit. Don't be afraid to say things to people because it doesn't hurt. They don't take it personally, and it'll probably work for you. If you have to think about it, just do it and see what happens.
And they're human beings.
Yeah.
And so I think having just normal conversations with them like that. Look, I usually run my last appointment around 7, 8 o'clock at night, so I can just put you down as my last one in the evening. Is there any reason you want to be back home at this time? No, perfect. I'm penciling in it for this time. You got a pen or pencil handy. Yeah. You're just assuming that appointment.
And show up to it because they're going to be there because it's at a weird time.
Yes.
Don't ever say, I'll call you when I'm on my way. It's always no news is good news. I don't know. Do you do that? The no news is good? Yeah, and they'll let you know. And that's okay. If they want to reschedule, at least they'll let you know, and you won't drive an hour and a half round trip at 9 o'clock at night.
So what do you do with the ones that when you say that and you send them the card and they do send you a message back like, hey, today's not going to work. Get a hold of me next week.
I immediately call. I don't text back because I know they're near their phone.
And you reset it right then.
Yeah, so it's hot. So I call and I'll be like, just got your text. I'm like on my way to somewhere new. Whatever, you make something up. You're like heading that way. Yeah. Appreciate you giving me a heads up. I'll be out that way again Thursday at 6:30. How about we target that? And I just say that. No news is good news again. Click.
Okay, and you don't resend them anything? You're just showing up, okay.
No,
I like that because, like, I always text them back, and I never hear anything.
Yeah, you get ghosted big time, but if you call and they're like, shoot, that guy's got balls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because they still feel that sense of obligation, like, I do have an appointment with this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just assuming that you're going to see him again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not that, like, oh, well, I could do that. How about this? Let's do this. Mm-hmm. I'll be back out in this area on this day, which works better for you.
Ultra assumptive every time.
Yes.
People like that. They like that. The directness. As long as it's respectful, it's like, this control, man.
And you got to respect your time. But when you start becoming a 50K producer, you got to value your time.
Guy making 50 stacks a month, your time is worth a lot of money in the field. So go see people. Your hourly, dude, is got to be hovering around $2,000 an hour. When you're running $1,000 at least, you know, and it's just crazy. So you got to protect that.
Yeah, and I think when you're a new agent, you got to just see as many people as possible and get your feet wet. So you should 100% show up to your appointments, even if they text you or call you. But when you get in a position where you're selling at a high level, it's a transition from now you don't have as much time.
Right.
When you're new, you have time because you have to learn the skills and get better. And so when you get to a point where you're selling at a high level, you shouldn't just go show up to anyone's house, especially if it's an hour, 2 hours away.
Right.
Like, I totally think that when you're new, you should, because a lot of times they're there anyways.
Right.
And you're going to get experience, and you need the appointments. You need to get those 100 appointments out the way. You've gotten your 100 appointments out the way, and you've established that you can sell at a high level. So now it's just valuing your time a lot better. What that looked like, I'm assuming, is more time on the phones as well. So when you first started, how much do you think you were spending time, like, on dial days, or were you dialing every day of the week, versus when now you're setting 8 to 10 appointments? What does that kind of look like, just for new people so they can understand?
So, my dial days in the first 3 months, 4 months was probably like 8 a.m. to 6, 7 p.m. Like, and I would take like breaks to just grab some food, like, and I'm talking grabbing food in the next room. I didn't leave anywhere. I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I would go to the bathroom and I was back.
And so did your upline or the person, your manager, tell you to do that, or you just did that on your own?
I just did it on my own because that's what it took to get the appointments, and I wasn't going to make any money or help anybody if I didn't do that.
So you weren't confused on that that Monday or the dial day or Thursday was the most important day of the week.
Right.
And that's where I think people get the misconception when they start this business, is that dial day is just like the day we make phone calls and wish and hope that we get appointments, instead of being intentional with their time and realizing that Mondays and Thursdays, or your dial days, are the days when you're setting up your pay the next couple of days. And I love that, the fact that Amanda and G were talking about, it's not run day, it's pick up check day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I wanna change my mindset and my agent's mindset to think we're not running today, we're going to pick up checks.
Yeah, I like
that
that.
sounds a lot more appealing to your mind, and it's tricking your mind into saying, I'm gonna go out and run and wish that I sell an appointment. It's like, no, I'm gonna go out and find a check, or 2 or 3 or 4. I guess, what would be some advice that you would give to a new agent who's just starting out, and emphasizing how important the phones really are to set yourself up for success?
Yeah. Even me, though, I would still get beat up when I would get told no on the phone. Track all your calls, man. That's huge, because you get to the end of the day, whether you got 200 or 350, 400 calls, you can see how many no's and how many yeses, and you can see yourself get better every week, every dial session.
Did you always have that kind of self accountability?
Yeah.
You did?
I did that for a long time, tracking it to see, because I wanted to know myself,
When you broke it down, don't you think for new agents, don't you think it makes so much sense to know, like, to have a proper expectation based on your own personal metrics too?
True, because like you can end up on social media, in your email, talking to whoever, or doing the laundry or whatever it is, and be like, I worked my butt off all day. And if you're actually tracking it yourself and holding yourself accountable, be like, dude, I made like 30 calls and I got like 3 appointments. Well, what's that tell you?
Right.
Make another 150 calls and you're gonna be booked,
right,
slammed. So
yeah, I think that's a huge mistake that new agents make, is that they're not trying to track the numbers. And when we say this is a numbers game, it truly is. None of us are special here. Rob's been in the industry for a little bit longer than us, but he's still known that this is a numbers game. And so when you actually use a dial tracker, it gives you this mental sense of your actual work. Because you call a new agent, they're like, yeah, man, I dialed all day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how many dials did you make? Maybe 100? Yeah. Okay, so how did you dial all day? Because we can make like 30 to 40 in an hour if you're being intentional with dialing. Yeah. And so I just wanted to touch on that topic, because people need to understand that tracking the numbers is how you're going to get better. And if you don't track the numbers and you're just like throwing something against the wall, and then your upline tries to help you, there's nothing for them to truly gauge on your work in that day. If we have nothing to analyze, there's no way for me to teach you to get better. So if you want to get better on the phones, you had to be intentional with the work that you're putting in, and understanding that Mondays and Thursdays, or your dial days, are the days then when you're going to make all the money. Yeah. And we tokened it as dial day as payday. And so now it's payday, Monday, Thursday, and now it's pick up checks on Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. Payday on Thursday, picking up checks on Saturdays, Friday, Saturday. So I just wanted to touch base on that, because you came out the gates. I mean, you've been running, dude. You haven't been here 9 months, which is super impressive. You're number 1 in FFL America out of 600 agents, so that says a lot to your self-discipline. And I know that obviously being in the gym, like I was giving you some analogies and stuff, like this business correlates to the gym so much. I mean, if you want to show up to the gym and say that you worked your butt off and you didn't even break a sweat, you're not going to get any stronger. You're not going to lose any weight. You're not going to get any better. And so with Dial Day, that's your cardio. That's you conditioning yourself to get better. So you got to play to people's strengths. You can't make someone get really good at recruiting. You couldn't make Zach Twardowski become really good at recruiting. So he used his selling ability to start funding, and he said on the call the other day, he found a recruiter and paid them more than he could even afford. Because people want to take the shortcut route and pay people as minimally as possible, but how do you expect really great results out of somebody who you're going to underpay? But if you overpay somebody, and what you're doing is you're also getting used to that pay. So he said he was going to pay someone $75 grand salary when he didn't have that type of money, but he got used to that $75 grand 6 months ago, and now that $75 grand just disappears right into the budget because of the growth that's happened to him. So it's getting uncomfortable in those type of aspects as well, but playing to people's strengths. So like Zach and Easton, they both could sell at a super high level, but they couldn't recruit very well then. And then you just work on it just like you're working on the phones, just like you're working on your in-home presentation. And so it's building both muscles and not focusing on one muscle as much when you're the leader. So you're the leader of Willis Hicks's organization. Because right now, how many agents do you have?
I think you got like 5, 6.
5, 6. So it's up to you to do all that stuff as far as recruiting, as far as culture, as far as selling, because you're going to dictate and set the tone for your culture. And it's up to you to build that culture at the same time. And so you're doing exactly what you needed to be doing by leading from the front and selling at a high level. But now you need to figure out that recruiting muscle. And so what you're doing now, you're trying to gain business acumen and to grow knowledge as far as recruiting goes. And you just keep leaning on people who are blowing up and building your network. Goes back to your network is going to dictate your net worth here. And so it's not having to figure out everything and it's failing forward, dude. Like, I mean, you're talking about, I didn't hire someone for 7 months, which is very selfish of me. And I told this to Sean the other day, like I had people in my warm market who were starving for an opportunity, but I was being selfish and not sharing it with them because I didn't think I could do it. And so now I have a guy, Jerry Lindsay, on my team who's writing $20K a month, and he just started 2 months ago. It's like the guy could have been here for over a year now and super far ahead. So I owe him an apology for not telling him about it. But you're talking about 7 months without hiring somebody, hiring my first agent in March of 2020, and then having 6 agents legitimately writing in July to get our logo, but probably had recruited over 20 people. And so realizing that not everyone's going to work out either. It's just the same numbers game. And then you got to just keep recruiting because then you're going to find people like you. It took me from March to September to find somebody who had the same goals and aspirations that wanted to build a big agency. So you're talking about March to September. So that's 5 months of recruiting, 5 months of failure, 5 months of no's, and 5 months of headaches and time wasted to find the right one person. And then 2 months later, we find 2 more people. And so it just starts to add. But it takes time, man. It's like, unless you came from a recruiting background or you know how to really sell the opportunity here at FFL, you're going to struggle at first. But it's just continuously consistency and effort putting towards and focusing on it and reaching out to people who are doing what you want to do.
Right. Good deal. Like it. Love it.
That's it.
Good stuff, man.
It's really not overcomplicating. If you keep these things as simple as that, then the less things you give yourself to focus on, the better you can get at those things that you're focusing on. If you spread yourself out too thin, you're going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, and that's not what you want to do here. You want to be a master of a few things.
Appreciate you coming in, man. This has been awesome. And I hope I've learned some things.
Me too.
I hope you've learned some things too, man. And
iron sharpens iron, man. This was great.
Yeah. It was. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
Yeah.